Well, hello and welcome to our latest installment of our Fireside Chat. We are so excited to be meeting with a very dear friend of mine today, the founder of Pockitudes, my dear friend Fred. We're going to be talking about all things gratitude. We're going to be talking about how to show up and make a difference and how to really just sort of lean into this gratitude space and how important gratitude really is. So in the meantime, while we're waiting for Fred to join today, we wanted to just remind each and every one of you about our upcoming Dare to Love Yourself Summit that is going to be next Monday, September 27th, starting at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We are so excited about it. We are so thrilled to be bringing together so many amazing folks, having some really beautiful and diverse and inclusive conversations about everything from, wearing the damn bathing suit and living your life now to why inclusivity matters in the fashion world, to, oh my goodness, so many great, the importance of representation. So you can head to daretoloveyourself.co so to join, and I think I see Fred, so let's to the conversation. And I'm a little geeking out because I have to share that Fred and I have been friends for pretty much our entire lives. So really happy to bring him into the mix. So there he is. Hey,
Hello, can you hear me?
we can hear you. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Well, we are so excited to have you on. I have been definitely talking about Pockitudes a lot lately in group. So you have a huge fan base amongst our Alliance crew. But more than anything, I would love for you to first start off by, actually, first let's acknowledge that probably our mothers are dying at this point. So can we just
I didn't know if you were going to bring that up.
for sure, for sure. So
Okay.
I've definitely known Fred my entire life and just family, and have been waiting for an opportunity to have conversations like this because I am such a huge fan of the work that you're doing, and just this amazing shift and change that's created. So because of that, I will love for you to just share a brief introduction about yourself, just a little bit about your story.
Well, since you went there, I have to share, and I might date myself here, but I used to babysit Joanna. So there.
Very,
So we both come a long way.
yeah.
So my story, so the funny thing is on the outside, it was kind of a tale of two worlds for me. Funny extrovert on the inside, always as you know, from middle school, high school on, the funny guy, but the internal world was a pretty dark one. Negative thinking, self-doubt, insecurities, fear, a brutal inner dialogue, as they call the monkey mind, the gremlin. For me, that was the start of defining, at least for many years, my persona. It was defined by that negative internal voice that refused to celebrate the achievements and accomplishments, and only was there to say, hey, you're a loser. Uh,
Yeah.
the joke that you made, people were laughing, but they weren't laughing with you, they were laughing at you. So, there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of anxiety, there was a lot of insecurity. At an early age, I was a very sensitive, creative kid, and it didn't take a lot for me to, as I look back, of course, knowing that we were going to have this conversation, actually talking to my therapist today, which I highly recommend.
Totally.
Everyone have a therapist. I'm all for therapy, um, even for fine tuning, right? But I refused for the longest time to name it depression. And there were a lot of bouts of depression. And I think it's a bigger conversation, I think, about society and our culture
Very much.
that just doesn't want to name it. And kind of, so for me, a big part of that story is bouts of depression, extreme sadness, and working really, really hard to get people to really like me on the outside, to help maybe on the inside. But still the gremlin and the monkey mind would just go to town. So that's kind of that story. There are many other stories, but because of our conversation today, I'm kind of allowing it to start at that place. which at a young age goes into middle school, high school, college, and then kind of just follows you professionally.
Yeah, I know. Somehow, I think on some level you hope that it's going to just, forget where you live, or if you make a move, it's not going to join you. Um,
Yeah.
Relocation, as we know, does not work. Wherever you go, there you are. And unfortunately, learned that time and time and time again. And I think that something that's so amazing is, I know that your work has led you to gratitude. And it just so happened to be that yesterday was World Gratitude Day, which I was like, well, we should have had this conversation yesterday. But on the heels of World Gratitude Day, how would you describe gratitude? And in your words, what does it mean?
Yeah, so when I do these interviews, I kind of laugh about that because it could be like the worst possible interview because it's a one word answer for me. It's love.
Yeah.
So then I could have this long pause
Yeah.
waiting for the interview. What else? So really, I mean, to expound on that, it's self-love. And with self-love comes that outward love for others and empathy.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, the concept of self-love was very, very foreign.
Yeah.
And so that's where it starts, right? Gratitude, grateful for the tiniest little things, but mostly grateful for your existence,
Mm-hmm.
grateful for your identity, and grateful for the recognition that you have value and you bring value to yourself and to others, that you have something to contribute, and changing that shift in perspective from focusing on what I can't do. I'm not going to find a cure for cancer. Fine. I have other talents and other gifts. And recognizing what those are and loving myself for those talents and gifts, and then recognizing that in other people. So for me, that's gratitude. For me, gratitude is love.
Yeah, and I love how simplistic and yet so how like multi-layered that response is. And
Right.
for me, I think it's really safe to say that for so many of us, the last year and a half has been overwhelming. It's been the hardest of times, and yet, you know, for me, I have a tendency to always go bottom drawer. It's this is wrong. This is what's not working. I need more of this. This is all of the things. And
Yeah.
something that I've definitely in the last year and a half have leaned to in my therapeutic practice is bringing in gratitude. Is let's take a look at what we do have. Let's take a look at almost in that grounding sense of like with everything on fire, because 2020 was the proverbial like dumpster fire, and 2021 is even worse. But it's leaning into what is right, what is good, what do you have, and I think that for many of our community, it's real hard when you are in the midst of this, serious mental illness, and, you start to think about, well, what do I have to be grateful for when everything is on fire in a sense. It's taking that moment to really calm and like focus and ground and really, even if it's one thing to ground you in that moment, to really just take sight that there are these little glimpses of hope. We talk about, cracks in the armor where light starts to come in, and really harnessing and really leaning into that. So, you talked about like the benefits, but in your words, how have those benefits translated for you specifically? Like, how have you seen a practice of gratitude really make a positive change in your experience, in your existence?
Yeah. So I'm a news junkie. So for me, I see the divisiveness globally, right? Um, I think what we have to understand is that we don't want to bypass the hard times. So a gratitude practice, I get that a lot. My friends love to tease me. I'm the gratitude guy, so I'm probably never sad. Everything is great. The Lego movie. They'll hum the song for me.
Yeah.
Like, it's a brutal crowd. But it, it, the bottom line is that there are going to be tough days. There are going to be days where you wake up and it's been gray and rainy, which it has been here in Asheville for 3 days. And so it will affect your mood, how well you sleep, what you've eaten. So it's really a recognition that gratitude isn't kind of covering your eyes and pretending the bad isn't out there. It's also recognizing, yes, The bad is out there, or challenging times, recognizing that, naming that, and then trying to focus on that one thing, like you said. Like for me, you know, gratitude, I don't have to find gratitude anymore. And it sounds so pretentious, but gratitude finds me. And that's only because, like Malcolm Gladwell talks about, you know, the 10,000 hours. I don't think I've reached those hours yet, but it is easier and easier to have that shift in mindset. Because for me, you know, and I think we'll get into this later about Pocketooth itself, but for me, it was a rewiring of my brain to the point where now it is a lot easier I can listen to the news all day about dark, negative stories, and it won't affect my mood because I recognize the challenges,
Yeah.
but I'm making a choice. And I think that's the key for me from being you know, I was unconscious for so many years. I was so unaware, and now I'm awake, and now I'm aware, right? And because I'm awake and I'm no longer a passenger, I'm kind of driving this, and I know that I have the power to not listen to the voice. I know I have a choice, and not everybody does. I want to be clear on that. I'm sharing my story, right? I know that I have a choice, and I had a choice to change my mindset from that victim state, victim mentality to one where, hey, I have more control. I don't have to choose to spend my entire day numbing myself, trying to turn the voice off. I have a choice to not listen to the voice, and I have a choice to focus on, at a minimum, I'm alive. Then there are so many things, right? I mean, there's the family, and there's the ability to smell, there's ability to taste, to move.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, it's never a denial of the negative, and it's not living a life of denial that nothing bad's going to happen. I know I'll have a really bad day. And I know that I'll wake up thinking, you know, in a negative attitude, but I also have so many tools now. And that's the key. Gratitude is a tool. It is not a cure for me, right? Gratitude was the genesis for a whole ripple effect of other changes that I can go into later. But I think I answered.
Yeah. Yeah. No, for sure. I really love how you talked about, you know, practicing. It takes practice, and like it does like change like the neuroplasticity, the rewiring, and how it's become part of your daily existence. You know, oftentimes people ask me about me and my recovery, and you know, is it still work? Is it something that is literally like you're doing the steps every single day, every single moment? And the answer is no. I actually think that, you know, I say this jokingly, I'm like, my tools are part of my DNA now. And then like when I finally learned about neuroplasticity, I was like, holy shit, yeah, they really are like legit. And it's really, you know, I think that, you know, for as you were sharing, you know, I was thinking about, you know, when we're able to show up and, you know, be in our privilege of being able to get out of bed and smell and see and be part. I think it's really a game changer. And what I think that I love when you were saying is just how it's really just who you are now, how you incorporate it into your being, and how you can make those choices. And I think for a lot of folks that, you know, are experiencing mental illness, are experiencing an eating disorder, it doesn't feel like you are at the passenger seat. You are it feels like you're not in the driver's seat. Like you're just sort of like that. I know for me, I talk about, you know, when I was in my eating disorder, I was a really bad backseat driver because I thought I was driving the car, because eating disorders give you this false, elusive form of control. But my recovery meant going like over the center console and grabbing a hold of the steering wheel and finally making the drive on my own. And oh my God, did I make wrong turns, and did I get into like really not great places? But being able to have to recognize the gift, and the being able to be aware of the gratitude of being able to be the one at the steering wheel was such a big part for me of my journey, of my evolution, if you will. So
yeah, and as I reflect on what you're saying too, at the lowest and darkest moments for me, you know, my rock bottoms that I would have, where it feels like there's no hope, it feels like there's no way out of this. And for me, you know, being this sensitive creative type, it's the end of the world. And I was never suicidal, but I had suicidal thoughts. Like, you know, I remember being on a flight once, and it was a really dark period in my life professionally, and there was a lot of turbulence. And my first thought it's very selfish for me, right? When I was in that depressive state, it was a very selfish existence because it's all about me, me, me. And I thought, wow, it'd be great if the plane crashed, because then I'd be done with all of this. And it's such a dark, I mean, think about that. Like, I think about that now. I reflect on that thought. And I can't even fathom, like, this is a different me, for
Right.
one. And it's also a little sad because, now I can recognize that in that darkest, lowest moment where I think it's the end of the world and there's no escape and there's no hope, I actually had so much more power.
Yeah.
I had so many tools that I could have accessed that I never did. And, part ignorance and part being unconscious, not being open to it. And of course, as I started my journey and I'm learning about Eckhart Tolle and I'm learning about, Tony Robbins' writings and Tim Ferriss, I mean, you name it, right? All of the Deepak Chopra, all those, Oprah Winfrey, I love Oprah. All of these gurus that are sharing and inviting people into their lives and sharing their stories with you. And I'm starting to open myself to this mindset. I'm like, wow, to think of where I was on that plane,
Huge.
to even my darkest day today, even my darkest day, it's not the same person. It's not the same thinking. It's not the same mindset at all. So it's wonderful now to have that empathy when I talk to people, and of course I know in your darkest place when someone says there's hope, you'll be fine. It's like, for me, it was like in one ear and out the other, right? But it's a practice. And for me, it is a daily practice. And it may not be the gratitude, but it could be the breathing. It has to be meditation. It has to be physical activity. I got to move my body. If I don't do that and get lazy, which is so easy and comfortable for me to do, then I could see myself slipping a little bit. And if I do, and when I do, it is okay. I have to give myself permission to be a flawed human.
I love that you brought it back to, giving yourself grace and knowing that you're not going to be perfect. You're not going to be all the things to everyone. You're not going to show up perfectly at every single time. And also being very well aware of what are the practices that fill your cup up. I think that for a lot of people that are, perfectionistic, that are people pleasers, that are all the things, like even saying no, like that is, I will tell you very directly, like, I don't say no. I have a very hard time saying no. I've gotten a little bit better over the last few years, but for me, showing up for myself means laying that boundary, or, not being a doormat, so it's really important to stop and to nourish yourself, mind, body, and spirit, meaning what is helpful for you, what is good for you. And I really love the caveat again that you're not going to do it perfectly. In fact, like, I think people are often surprised when I show up in my flawed, raw self, because, your existence, my existence, it's not sunshine, bunnies, and rainbows. It's not going to be like, there's, as my little nugget Annabelle likes to say, like, when she hears the birds outside, she's like, "Mama, they're chirping for me," and I'm like, they are, and realizing that that's not what our existence really is. But it's about picking yourself up, dusting yourself off, and continuing to keep on moving forward.
And I will add too, to what you were saying, I would expound on that, because there's a confidence when we go back to that love, which for me, gratitude is love. So when you start loving yourself, then you start getting a confidence for your life and living. Yeah. And so, because I know you so well from our childhood, we are very alike. We are people pleasers. We're perfectionists. So in the beginning, I'm doing the practice as I designed it, and it's 4 steps and it's what you do. And well, why isn't it working? It took me a while. And then I'm like, wait a minute, like, I'm doing the same thing. The old patterns are coming in. Right. And so it's giving myself permission, but then saying no, I really resonate with that, because as you get more confident, because you start loving yourself, you're not as desperate to be the funny guy. You're not as desperate to please above and beyond. I mean, that's still in my DNA. I'd rather be loved, and I'd rather be appreciated, of course, but it's not the end of the world. Like, if this, if I fumbled on my words, or like, I'm not going to obsess, like, yeah, I probably will make a mistake. I probably said something I wish I hadn't, and I'm okay with that. I'm grateful for this opportunity. I'm grateful to be talking to you and have people listen, to send off one of these every time I do. So it's okay. And that's one of the benefits of gratitude that I didn't expect.
Yeah.
With self-love comes confidence, more confidence than I've had. Genuine confidence, not a performance like I used to give, right? When I, in my career, when I want to get this client. Do I though? I really don't. But I'm going to give you a great performance and you're going to hire me and it's going to be awesome. Now I'm like, yeah, no, not interested. Respectfully decline. And I feel good about it. I disappointed someone, but I was true and authentic to myself. And that comes from gratitude. That's the seed.
100%. No, I love that. I just, and so much of what you're saying, like to me brings up, this idea of boundaries, of being really authentic, into, what is your star, what are your values? For me, the ACT, acceptance and commitment therapy has been a really big part of my recovery and my everyday being, and really acknowledging that, like, what are our values? What are the things that we want to show up for? What are the things that we want to take that next step, and giving ourselves that grace to know, like, that, that gremlin or that shitty committee, is never really going to go away. It'll get more quiet. It will never just go away. And, I think that for me, as I was starting my journey, I was like, well, recovery, or however you want to define it, is the complete opposite. Because for me, I live in a very dichotomous world. Everything is black or white, all or nothing. And definitely in my life, I've learned in my recovery in the last 20 some years, I've learned that I don't really like to call it gray. Like in our community, we call it a rainbow, because, as much as I love gray, and my house is gray and my office is gray and everything around me is gray, let's call it a rainbow for all colors, right? But, I thought that it was just going to be either, I'm feeling really crappy, I'm feeling really shitty. The opposite is, it's fantastic all the time, and I'm going to be able to show up all the time. And I'm going to do my recovery in the way that you were talking about your practice. I have to do it this way. Right. And it's not. I mean, for me, like, introduction of ACT and being mindful and all of that has led me to be aware that you may still hear the gremlins or the shitty committee, and you still take that next movement forward. I say this a lot in our support groups. Like, I remember early on in my recovery, I would have, my therapist say to me, I'm really proud of you for getting up today. I'm really proud of you for taking a shower today. And I was like, why? People do that. That's a normative behavior. Like, we're not like going to throw a damn parade because I got out of bed. And, realizing that for a while I couldn't do that. Like, I couldn't do the very bare minimum. And so whoever's listening to this is realizing that where you are is good enough, and we continue to move forward. We continue to do the things, like, as our dear friend, Sister Glennon Doyle says, like, we can do hard things. So I wanted to just actually bring up pockitudes. Like, you've talked about, I have mine right here. So tell me all about pockitudes. I know that, journaling, and writing these gratitudes, affirmations, has been really a big part of your healing journey, but how and why was pockitudes born?
Yeah. So 5 or 6 years ago, I hit an epic rock bottom, and emotional, professional was kind of the starting, right? I lost a massive client that I knew I would lose, and it had a rippling effect. And it was just, again, I was completely unconscious most of my life. And so while I knew this could happen, I was like, la, 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 la. And so it happened. And it hit me much harder than I thought it would. And that's because all of these demons, all of the anxiety, the fear that I've been carrying with me, I never dealt with. So it was only a matter of time until that volcano, that dormant volcano, would just erupt. And everyone's like, wait, what? I thought it was dormant. Well, it wasn't. Yeah. And so it created, it was pretty ugly. In fact, that flight was during that time. I spent 2 months in that poor me victim state of could have, would have, if I'd only. And then the voice, just completely letting the gremlins, the monkeys, whatever you want to call them, take complete over. I mean, I was just a shell and they were taking over, calling me a piece of shit, a loser. Of course this happened. You'll never get out of this.
Right.
Your kids will go home. I mean, you know, the insanity, your kids will be homeless. You'll never, I mean, it's crazy. The thinking, but that was the state that I was in.
Mm-hmm.
So I wake up one day and maybe I slept well, because for those 2 months I never slept. I mean, it was maybe an hour, and the anxiety, the panic attacks, you know, the warming of the body, the head getting really hot, the heartbeat pounding, you're like barely can breathe. I mean, I could go on forever and how dark it was. I hope now are you getting the idea that it was pretty dark? So then I woke up and one day I was like, okay, this obviously is not. And my wife is a big part of my journey, of course. She's a big part of everything. God forbid I leave her out. I want to credit her for helping me through these dark times, helping me with Pockitudes. So
awesome.
Make sure that legal clause has been inserted. So, you know, I started reading, listening to podcasts. Tara Brach, I could list a million. A friend gave me a great book, a simple book called Taming Your Inner Gremlin from Rick Carson. Reading and learning. And then I would read, you know, Berkeley, the Institute of Happiness, and Stanford and Harvard, all these white papers on gratitude. So I'm like, So I buy this product that's very well known. I won't name it. And they claim like it's a quick practice and it's a big book. And I open it up and all right, I'm going to do exactly what I'm told to do, and this will help. And I could not connect with this thing. So I started thinking, I want something that I can carry with me. And that was the start. So I bought a Moleskine journal. Mm-hmm. I cut the round corners, and then I started, based on what I was learning, reading, hearing from Tony Robbins, Tim Ferriss, all that, I started crafting the practice. And every day I would go to this bench. We used to live in Boulder, Colorado. I'd go in this bench in these community gardens, and I'd look at the mountains, you know, in my state of, I need an answer, you know, this dramatic, creative way that, you know, we creatives tend to do. And I started writing the gratitude, which was really hard, right? Because I'm in a really low point. So I'm writing a gratitude. Well, and you start with the basics. Grateful for my kids, grateful for my wife, grateful for being alive. And then I said, okay, so then I kept doing that every day. And I added, the practice was deliberate. One, I realized I was writing the same thing. So I wanted to create those 6 categories. You know, I have to look at them, but the 6 categories, you know, are person, experience, thing, pet, place, self. Self was important. I want to give myself credit. So then I would write it down, because one of the things I learned was handwriting. There are apps for gratitude, and I used to go, why don't you do an app? There is no app, because the concept is you unplug. You get away from the phone, and the physical act of writing by hand actually creates a deeper imprint. And it slows you down. So it's really an act of mindfulness in essence.
I love that.
Yeah, so I would handwrite it. Then I asked why. So I would write the gratitude, the category, then why, to create an even deeper. So now I'm basically holding myself accountable. I'm not just saying I'm grateful for my wife. Well, why? Well, and then the big one was the act of kindness. And that was huge. So for me, gratitude's important, but act of kindness, you know, I call these gratitude journals, but really they're mental health guided journals. I don't know. I'm always going back and forth, because act of kindness is as important as the gratitude. Getting myself out of the me state into the we and us state. And that's been a huge, if not bigger, because when I'm in that moment where I'm like, I'm feeling down today, all right, I'll do my gratitudes and that's fine. But then I go out of my way to help someone. And every day I try to see who can I help. And sometimes out of laziness is, okay, I'll write a wonderful review on LinkedIn or help a small business, whatever. It's taking myself out of my own head, doing something for someone else. And that had such a huge part. And then reflections on the right side. And now we added positive affirmations.
Love that.
I've been doing a lot of learning about the law of attraction, and kind of, again, continuing this journey I'm on, where, yeah, there are days where I'll find myself making a negative comment or judging. Ego, the bad ego comes into place. So the positive affirmations, reducing the judgment has been huge. Manifesting what I'm looking for. I am trying to build a brand. I have built a brand. I want to share the message. I want to do my part. When we talk about our collective, I believe in the collective consciousness, you know, the universal oneness of it all. And I think there's a possibility that someday in our future, there will be this universal gratitude, this collective gratitude. Once we can realize the oneness, that we are all connected, as cliched as it sounds, Imagine all of us thinking as one, and even our deepest enemies or people that think completely the opposite of us. At the end of the day, we want to be loved, we love, we have human emotions and feelings, right? So that's the journey that I'm on. That was, and that was the birth of the Pocket Tooth. So I, did my journal and I realized, hey, and I've always wanted to do a product. And this is a classic example of I wanted to get out of service, get into product, and every product I would get into was motivated by money or, a desperate attempt to reduce the clients.
Yeah.
This product found me. So I always say gratitude finds me, Pocket Tooths found me, and I'm using my talents and my gifts as a branding guy in design and a creative to try to bring designers and artists along with me to create this experience. So that's what happened. That's how it became, and it's being refined. Misa, my wife, will complain like, leave it alone. I'm like, no, it's growing and it evolves. So the positive affirmations is an example. I think this is our 8th edition. I feel like we're in a good place.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's.
No, I think it's fantastic. And so much what you talked about, kindness, paying it forward. One of my dear friends and my colleagues here at the Alliance, McCall Dempsey, who, always talks about paying it forward, always talks about, you go through something, we need to give back, we need to make a difference. And that's actually why the Alliance was founded in the first place was, I went to hell and back, and I got out. I saw light. Definitely I didn't recover to utopia. It's not, I recovered to light and giving back and making a difference. And so I love the idea of being of service. My best friend Garrett, who is sober, AA is all about being of service too. So even that one thing every day, and whether it is a review on LinkedIn or, DoorDash or whatever it is, or literally holding the door for someone, doing small little acts of kindness really, really does fill your cup. And I have to say, I was so happy to see that you added affirmations as well in this latest edition, because and for folks who know me, know this, that me and positive affirmations have a really interesting relationship. I was that total asshat in treatment, and with my therapist that was like, we need to do positive affirmations, and I was like, I am not gonna look in the mirror and just tell myself that I love myself, because that's bullshit, and I'm not there. Or that I look beautiful or this. And so my therapist and I really worked hard on what is a really good positive affirmation that you can connect to. And for me, at the core, when I peeled back the layers of, I consider it like the artichoke as opposed to the onion, not a big fan, it was that I didn't feel like I deserved. I felt like I didn't deserve to be seen and heard and take up space or to exist. And so that was actually my positive affirmation was I deserve. And, I thought it was so hokey. I thought it would never work. So I went along with my homework and I would say it. And, you talk about the process of writing and how it's hardwired, and even saying it out loud, hearing it in your own ears is always really effective as well. And it was like someone was talking and I was just sort of existing. And at one point, the two just came together, and I finally heard myself say, I deserve. And I fell apart, because that was such an emptiness inside of me. And so all to say, as we start to wrap up this conversation, is the immense benefits, it really does work, writing your gratitudes down, doing that paying it forward, or contributing with kindness, that remind, it's all so lovely and wonderful and necessary. And I think that in a world that is continuing to be a dumpster fire, I think we look for our little slivers of light. And I think that gratitude, and specifically Pocketoods, is one of them. So for those individuals that are watching that want to learn more about Pocketoods, want to buy Pocketoods, all the things, and I will tell you, definitely get them. I will tell you, they are a part of my daily practice. I keep it in my purse, which is awesome. And I just write it down in the, I find a little time. And, I know that so many of us are so scheduled. And I know that for me, I go until 9 on Mondays and Wednesdays because I have group, and like, I have no time. I just have no time. We all have time. And what you've done with Pockitudes is made it attainable for individuals to just take those moments throughout the day where those feelings of gratitude do come up, or you can actually sit and be mindful and ground for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. So where can you learn about Pockitudes?
Well, I always recommend to start with pockettudes.com. We're on Amazon. I'm thrilled to announce that we're going to be in 550 CVS pharmacies throughout the country. And we will soon be in Whole Foods in the South and Mid-Atlantic regions. And now I'm manifesting Target.
Let's put it out there. I mean,
yeah.
I think of like Target's MVP. Like, I literally go there every day. I drive up. So we're putting out Target.
Target, if you're listening, we're ready. And I think we also have a discount code set up for your community. So I'm excited to share that.
Yeah, we will definitely share that. Also, we're going to let everyone know who comes to Dare to Love Summit about the discount code. I believe it's AEDA20, but I will make sure that we post it under this on IGTV. So it'll be in the comments. We'll also put in the comments on Facebook as well. So I'm overwhelmed, and my heart is so happy. Okay, thank you, Lisa, from my team. She reminded me that if you raise a certain amount of money at the Dare to Love Yourself Summit, you can actually get one sent to you along with so many other goodies. Thank you for your support with that. I'm stoked and excited about it. But yeah, thank you. This has just been so wonderful. Thank you for everything that you do. Thank you for being part of my life, for being part of my family.
Thank you for everything you've done and what you do. It's just incredible. So proud of you and what you achieved.
Thank you so much. Well, everyone, we hope that you will join us next Monday, 7:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time at our Dare to Love Yourself Virtual Summit. Join for fun people like Jamila Jamil, Morgan Harper Nichols, and many, many, many other amazing individuals. Definitely check pockettudes.com or check out their Instagram page. But please take care of yourself. So thrilled for everyone who joined us, and we will see everyone soon. Fred, so good to see you. Have a great
Thank you.